How radioelectronic circuits have evolved by Paul, Mike 0 Whiskey November Uniform, or 26 Charlie Tango 730 if you catch me on 11 metres and PMR 446.
Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's Paul, Mike 0 Whiskey November Uniform, or 26 Charlie Tango 730 if you catch me on 11 metres and PMR 446. Now, we're going to look at something different today. What's actually inside of a modern radio and how that would compare to something a wee bit older. I've got something that's a wee bit older. It's a receive-only unit, but it basically covers something from that particular area, and this is something that's a lot more recent. This is a Exin VV898, and well, it's not the best radio in the world as far as the front end's concerned, because it just kind of gets swamped, although depends on the frequency and where you're transmitting. Although I do want to use this one as an APRS iGate, so which I will be doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this radio and show you how they can make it so small. I have been in here before because there's a little backup battery in there which I had to change. So I'm going to open it up. It means I've got to take out quite a lot of screws. And also this shows how these are basically throwaway and they can't actually really be serviced and there's no adjustments. Because it's all microcontroller based, which is very annoying. I don't have a grounding strap, so I'm going to have to improvise here. There we go. Kind of improvised. There's a grounding lead behind me. Now there's a few screws on this, so I've got to take them all out. I've got to use a smallish screwdriver because if I use a screwdriver that's the wrong size, I'm going to completely damage the screws, and it's not what we want. So this radio, I think it's about £70. I think maybe not even that. It's 10 watts output, so well within this full power, so well within parameters for foundation licensees. And it's got this heatsink on the back, even though it doesn't get that hot. This one's fitted with an SO239 though. These are also available with the BNC on them, from what I understand. So the back lid is unscrewed, but there's another screw that needs to come out, and that's on top of the front fascia. Has to come out as well. I think there's another one on the underneath of that. No, I think that's it. It's just the ones on the side of the front fascia now have to come off, because this radio is a wee bit compact and they've just decided just to screw it up everywhere, just so that you can go and nosy around inside. Oh yes, you can. That's what us amateurs do. We like to take our radios to bits, but it's a little bit harder in this day and age because now I've got the front off this one, and I will see if I don't get in the back off. Just checking I've not missed any screws here. Doesn't look like I have. There we go. Yeah. And be careful because the speaker's actually soldered onto the radio. So inside this one, it's really all you're dealing with. There's no adjustments in there. It's just a circuit board. I think the main adjustments are all under this metal screen, which I think is actually the final output transistor in there. Looks like it might be. Yeah, it's hard to see under there, but I believe that's what's under there, but I can't remove it, so it looks like there's a thermal pad, and I've got no thermal compound to replace that, so I can't take that off. And even then, there's no adjustments to make. It's just, I can't take this board out either, because I think it might be thermally bonded on the other side as well, and also there's the connection to the SO239, which on this radio, even though it's soldered, it doesn't look as though they've done a particularly good job of soldering it. I'll show you that. Not sure if you can see that. There we go. Yeah, I don't think they've soldered that very well, so I can't say I'm impressed with that. Got a little backup battery, a few capacitors, and that's really about it. some tiny little transistors, tiny little chips, and that's really all there is in there. It's not serviceable in the slightest. You can't tune it up or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back together off camera, and then we'll bring in the next exhibit to show you how things have changed. I'm not going to take any of the boards out in there or anything. It's all tiny surface mount components in there. There's no adjustments that I can see, so you can't tune this up. So the best way to make sure it's actually on frequency really is frequency counter. It's an FM set, so that's fine. And like I say, I'm using that for my APRSI gate because it's nice and cheap and cheerful. I might need to put some filtering on it, but we'll see what happens on the when I finally actually set that up. So I'm going to stop the recording whilst I get the next exhibit. Okay, so I'm back with the second exhibit for this little video. So what I've got here is a Belcom AMR-217B receiver, which is about 1980s vintage. Now, compared to the Lexington VV898, there's quite a lot of components in there. And what's happened over the years is the manufacturers have scaled back, so they've gone from lots of components like this to very little like that. So in here there are adjustments. Obviously you can't just go in there with a screwdriver and adjust them. That's what the so-called screwdriver experts, they weren't really experts, did in the CB days. They just went in with a screwdriver and just poked around with all the transformers and potentiometers, and thus ended up damaging them, which is a bit of a shame really. A lot of CB sets were ruined that way. I actually witnessed this being done by someone who, well, the person actually loaned an Audioline 341 CB radio off. I actually witnessed him opening up that radio and poking around with a screwdriver inside of it and turning all the potentiometers. I don't think he went anywhere near any of the tuning cans, so that's okay, but you certainly do not touch them without the correct test equipment, and certainly not with a screwdriver. So I wouldn't be doing anything to this without test equipment. In fact, I wouldn't do anything to the radio without test equipment. So this is just a receiver. It's a VHF receiver, and this one's actually crystal controlled. I've got a realistic that works in the same way, but I think there's some dry joints and some mucky contacts on it, so I'm going to have to get that cleaned up at some point. So some of these might be filled with wax, but it doesn't appear as though any of them are. That's to stop them vibrating out, say, in the environment of a motor vehicle. But this one's only set up for receiving 2 meters from what I can tell. It just uses crystals. You can buy the crystals readily. There's some adjustments on there to fine-tune them properly. There is instructions on how to do that, I think, on the internet, but you still really need the right equipment. This was supposed to take a main supply in, but I can't see how this would work, because the main supply, I believe, on this would be set for the American market, judging by what's stamped on the case. So, as I said, I've not even tried that, but it does run off 13.8 volts, which is fine. This is an FM receiver, so it'll all be everything inside specific to FM. There's no AM adjustments on that, I wouldn't think, and there's certainly no transmit stages. It's all receive. So you only really need a test set that can generate a carrier on the frequencies. But it's not a bad little set. Looks the part. Has a twin pot for volume and squelch. Has a set of fixed channels. If I can get that switch to move, it's a rotary switch. Quite an old-fashioned rotary switch. Proper heavy-duty one as well. Except I'm not sure if that's on the... Oh no, it is actually on the... But it has actually... The knob is actually on in the correct position. It has LEDs to indicate whether you're on the fixed mode or... those. As far as I'm aware, there's only 5 fixed channels in use. And the rest are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the rest are all of the push buttons on the front. This does actually work. I can actually show you this working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the power lead off the back of my Grant 2, and I'm also going to grab a radio. It has to be a VHF set, so it'll be a 2-meter radio. So I'll show you this working. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I'm back again. I haven't plugged the power lead into the receiver yet, but I'm about to do that now. This is where it'll either work or go bang. So far, so good. The lead is used for the President Grant 2, so there is a fuse in it and it's on cigarette lighter plug, so the polarity at both ends should be correct. So. Squelch on this is a bit sharp. Hmm, 145525 would be a good frequency. So the moment that's scanning, I'm going to just put this into so I'll just knock that off, because we'll have some feedback. So it is working, so I'll just check that frequency is clear. Here's a frequency in use, please. Mike 0 Whiskey November uniform. Yeah, nothing heard, but I'm not going to get very far anyway because I'm sat on a handheld in the house. Mike 0 Whiskey November uniform, test 1, 2, 3. Mike 0 Whiskey November uniform, test 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we know it's working. There is the scan in progress. Not sure if you can see that. The squelch on this really got to turn that some way up before it switches off. It's not scanning the fixed bank because I haven't set the fixed bank to scan, but you can put that into scan, like so. So I'll put it into manual mode. 4 was our frequency. Mike 0 Whiskey November uniform test. Good punchy audio, I think. Not bad. So, for a receiver that's quite some age, that isn't too bad. It works still. It's just the squelch is a bit funny on that. So, that is basically how radios have differed from radio technology's differed basically from the past right up to the current day. The squelch on this is controlled within the menu settings. You have to go into menus and look for it, which is really annoying. It's electronically controlled. Whereas on that it's just controlled by this potentiometer here, although I believe it needs adjusting, and without circuit diagram I can't do anything about that. The squelch threshold is set far too high on that. So it might have been fiddled with at some point. Yeah. Yeah, So either that or it's picking up local noise from in here, which is why the squelch threshold is too high. But it works fine. So you can buy an old receiver or even a transceiver of that era, and it will work just as well as a modern day transceiver. But just because this is all scaled down doesn't mean it works any more or any less. Although you just can't fix these once they break. Where these, if you can still get certain components, you can still fix them. Capacitors, generally, the electrolytic ones, they're the ones that will be the most likely to fail, so those can be replaced. And it's all through hole, whereas this is vast majority of it surface mount, so for the average ham, it's pretty much irreparable. But if you've got an expertise in surface mount soldering, then you should be good. The only plus side of this is obviously going to be that it's the size of it. This also lacks all the front end filtering that would stop all of the rubbish like pager intermod, whereas the Belcom, that has proper filtering in it, and therefore it's not a problem at all. So hope that was that was a good insight into how radios have evolved over the years. I prefer the older retro stuff, but I don't actually have anything like that. So I thought this would make a bit of a change because I've been doing the lockdown reviews. I've been doing quite a few of them. So I should have another one of those coming up. I'm just looking to see which radio I can line up for that. I'm going to try and get a couple of other videos in the can as well. So I'm not going to be doing a lockdown review today, so I've already been out today, so I'm not going to be going out again. So I might do another video later on today actually. I'll just see what else I've got on. So it's Paul Mike 0 Whiskey November uniform or 26 Charlie Tango 730 if you catch me on 11 metres and a PMR 446. And don't forget to enjoy the radio, watch out for the virus and keep yourself safe. I'm going to have to go quickly because I'm in the process of unblocking a drain somewhere and that I've had some issues with. So, and I've got other things on as well, but I'm going to try. I think I'll try and do another video later on. I'll see what I can think of. So 7.3 for now.
Don't forget, you can subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to be notified of new videos as I upload them. 73 is from Paul Mike 0 Whiskey November uniform or 26 Charlie Tango 730 on 11 metres and PMR 446.